Welcome to Bicycle Retail Radio, presented by the National Bicycle Dealers Association. Bicycle Retail Radio brings together retailers, vendors, advocates, and thought leaders for honest discussions about the latest issues facing bicycle retailers. The podcast dives deep into the challenges and triumphs of the bicycle industry, providing an in-depth look at the person behind the profession. Aiming to deliver content that's both relatable and thought-provoking, offering real-world tips and insights to help you find success in the bicycle industry. There's a human side of the business, and the podcast aims to share stories, experiences, and strategies that you can apply in your own shop. Whether you're looking for inspiration, practical advice, or a sense of community, you've come to the right place. The National Bicycle Dealer Association has a rich history of supporting retailers across the nation. Founded in 1946 with a mission to strengthen specialty bicycle retailers through education, through research, through communication, and through advocacy. The National Bicycle Dealer Association is proudly supported by our members and our membership. If you'd like to learn more about the benefits of joining, please visit nbda.com.
Attention, bicycle retailers. The NBDA Retailer Summit is coming to Las Vegas, March 25th. Join over 150 of the industry's top retailers at Retailer Summit West, an exclusive one-day event featuring powerful insights, hands-on workshops, and unbeatable networking opportunities. Spend the day with top experts in our industry. Don't miss this chance to elevate your business. Learn more and register at nbda.com.
Hello, listeners. My guest today is Joshua F., president of the National Youth Bike Council, which is a youth-led nonprofit dedicated to empowering young people and equipping them with the tools, leadership skills, and role models they need to become leaders in their communities. Josh shares the inspiring story of how the council was formed, its mission to amplify youth voices in cycling, and its vision for creating a stronger, more inclusive cycling culture across North America. The conversation dives into why bicycle retailers play a vital role in supporting youth cycling, and we talk about actionable tips for retailers to engage with young riders and really foster these lasting connections. So whether you're a retailer, an advocate, a cycling enthusiast, this episode will hopefully leave you inspired to champion the next generation of riders and leaders. I hope you enjoy. Josh, thanks for coming on Bicycle Retail Radio. How are you?
I'm doing great. And thank you so much for having me. I'm glad to be speaking here with the NBDA.
It's well overdue, I think. I think we first met you a couple years ago at the Cabda shows, and I think this was like a brainstorm originally, and I'm sorry it took so long.
Yeah, I think it was like in passing, and then eventually we were like, all right, well, let's touch base again. I know you're always kind of flying around, literally and not literally.
There's a lot going on, but you know, the work that the National Youth Bike Council is doing is so important to our industry. Working with youth, getting more people into the sport. So yeah, thank you for the work you do, and it's about time we did this podcast, right?
For sure, yeah.
So I want to start with getting our listeners up to speed with the National Youth Bike Council. Some of our listeners might not have heard about the work you're doing to empower youth through cycling. And I thought if you could just give us a general overview, that would be a great place to start.
Yeah, definitely. So our organization is always constantly evolving. We originally started with the idea of just combining a bunch of different youth groups, so a different bunch of youth councils. But today we specifically want to increase the involvement of youth bicycling in a general sense and do that from a youth leadership perspective. So that's a small little overview. But also at the same time, if you're curious about the history of kind of how we got started, I can tell you that too. And our organization started maybe like back in 2017. Just about, where it was kind of like a concept and an idea. And from there, we actually started out of this thing called the Youth Bike Summit. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that.
I am, just from the work that I've done on your website. And so listeners, if you want to know more, I'd shoot over to nybcouncil.com. So not while you're driving, not while you're riding or running, but nybcouncil.com. And you can see the supporters, SRAM, People for Bikes, QBP, REI, USA Cycling. I mean, they're doing great work here. So so the summit you were saying, Josh, I just wanted to make sure our listeners knew where to go. Yeah. So
Yeah, yeah.
tell us about the summit.
Yeah. Have you ever been to the Youth Bike Summit?
I haven't, no.
We have to definitely get you out to the Youth Bike Summit at least one time. It's been happening for over 10 years now, and started way back in 2011. But the Youth Bike Summit has a really close history with us because it wasn't until 2016 and 2017, like I mentioned, that young people that were going to the Youth Bike Summit started to have this idea about having this national Youth Bike Council. The Youth Bike Summit itself serves as like a opportunity for young people to be like decision makers, facilitators, leaders. And so you see lots of young people doing presentations, keynotes, and also just informing their peers about doing different workshops. And that's normally 3 days and only happens on a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And so this year it occurred once again, and had some hiccups throughout like 2020 to 2022. And yeah, so our organization has started out of that. You can imagine we get a lot of passionate young people together who are excited about bicycles in any form or way, that it's natural that something like this would eventually have came to be.
Yeah, and the council is, I should say, a nonprofit. So you're a 501c3. And so started in 2017. So all of these different organizations came together, or how did you decide on like the board of directors and actually that startup process?
It was very organic. Just started with asking lots of questions. We first asked ourselves, is it possible for young people to just combine our power? Originally, we were very like pro young, kind of like didn't want no adult interference or anything like that. So you can imagine we were very passionate. And since kind of matured a little bit and started looking for ways in which we can combine our power of folks of all ages, really being supporters, but with the idea that keeping young people at the forefront of like some of the decision making, leadership opportunities, and general opportunities as well. So at the Youth Bike Summit in 2016, when we had experienced different youth groups coming together, we said, can we just combine them all? Fast forward to 2017, we just started like some phone calls monthly. It ended up turning to like a whole chat group. And this was with the different young people that had attended the Youth Bike Summit. And eventually, maybe I think in like 2019, we started this thing called advisors, where we would ask like adults who had a little bit more experience to come and give us some advice on the different things we wanted to do. So that's why in 2020, we eventually incorporated, became a full 501c3. And, now we kind of fast forward to today with, the board, the 501c3. We still keep the advisor role actually to this day, and everything is still completely volunteer led.
It's so awesome. So it is really, it's youth. It's a youth board, a youth advisory. And you guys are really making decisions for this organization. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's what I think I hear, right?
That's exactly how it is, and it's really nice. It's been an interesting journey for a lot of the young people that are a part of it. And don't get me wrong, like not all the decisions we make are great ones. So that's exactly why getting involved with the different partners we have, like People for Bikes, SRAM, you said, QBP, and a lot of them have seen the work that we're doing or seen the vision that we're trying to push for, and have decided to step in and support in some form or way. Like, for example, we used to do like annual projects every single year. And we've had like, SRAM sponsor one of those in the past, QBP sponsor one of those in the past, People for Bikes sponsor one of those in the past, for opportunities for us to basically go out into our community, replicate a project that we wanted to do there in one specific city or state, and kind of do it in many cities and states as we have council members available to do it.
It's so wonderful. It's like you took like the reins in your own hands, or you're the pedal, you're steering your own bike over here. I think it's awesome.
Hi, I'm George Lee, Director of Sales at Rad Power Bikes. You probably know us as the leader in direct-to-consumer e-bikes, but we're shifting gears. Now you can sell our award-winning e-bikes right from your sales floor. We've invested in quality control, industry-leading Safe Shield batteries, plus tools to drive customers to your shop. And with competitive margins, no minimum orders, plus fast support, there's never been a better time to partner with us at Rad. Let's connect your shop with over 600,000 riders who already love Rad Power Bikes. Learn more at radpowerbikes.com.
Awesome. So where are you located? So if there's youth listening, or like, is it all across the US into North America? Just let us know.
Only US, not fully North America. We do have some folks that are currently following our work, outside of the US, so kind of like in Canada as well. But currently we have council members in Austin, that's currently where I'm located, Oakland, Atlanta, Georgia, State College, Pennsylvania, and Boston. And sometimes, if a young person, because a young person can join the council directly, or a group, this is something we've actually been experimenting with, can join the council. They kind of represent that particular location. So if there's work that needs to be done, advocacy oriented, or like a one-off project, they're available to do that there.
It's so cool. And you can see when you're on your website, you can reflect back to the work that the council has done since 2022. I know your impact report is up there, and it just talks about some of the highlights that you've had and some of the partnerships that the industry has really kind of opened up to you and been very supportive. And the MBDA is truly supportive of your work as well. I can't congratulate you enough for the steps you've taken. So you're across the US, you've got, you're positioned in different states. You're continuing to look to grow and refine the programs that you offer. Like, if I had to ask you to summarize your vision for the future of youth cycling, what would you say? I mean, it's a huge question, right? But like, what are you working towards?
Yeah, and you can imagine there's so many different aspects to cycling. There's so many different ways to get involved. But ultimately, young people want to be able to ride their bikes for convenience and also with others. So I would say that our vision has been very evolved around how can we get the young people to interact with the bicycle in a very clear way, whether it's like career opportunities to daily transportation, which is very simple like that.
I love that. And then, so you're really focused on the youth summit, right? That's one of your top programs. And I know that that's been gaining just participation. I really want to talk about that. And you said I should go. I would love to. I'm sure some of our listeners are like, tell me more about the Youth Bike Summit. Can you talk a little bit about that event, and how the listeners to the podcast might be able to take part, or if they can't personally attend, support you in that event?
Yeah, there's lots going on in that area actually. But kind of to take it one at a time. The history first a little bit. I mentioned that the Youth Bike Summit has been happening for over 10 years. Um, in 2016 and 2017 area, when we started having this idea of the council, we didn't really know where it was going to go. It was just an idea, and it was just like, we know there's a place, we know there's a space, we know there's a need for young people to feel more empowered about the work that they're doing, or their entrance into this bicycling community. How do they take ownership of it, and how do they, like I said, make a career out of it, or make it like a daily options? So fast forward a few years during the 2020 time, it was very challenging for a lot of organizations. So some of the organizations, even one that had previously hosted the Youth Bike Summit, had shut down. And so for those who don't know, the Youth Bike Summit was actually put on by a bunch of earn a bike groups. So groups that have some form of youth program where they get young people on bicycles either for free or at no cost. And these earn a bike groups, they were, all over the US, I believe some all the way from Seattle all the way to some in Philadelphia, which is where I'm originally from. When those groups came together and put the Youth Bike Summit on, the Youth Bike Summit would then travel to different city and different states. So the Youth Bike Summit has been held in like the Twin Cities, in New York several times, in the DC, Arlington area, Atlanta, Seattle, and some other locations. So today, and in the last few years, we've been reshaping the way the Youth Bike Summit looks. So if you're talking about things that are youth-led or something that young people specifically want, the Youth Bike Summit is no better place to look. Young people really enjoy coming to the summit, connecting with other young people, being asked to be put into, decision-maker roles, being put in decision-maker roles, or even asking for those roles themselves. So the Youth Bike Summit has kind of had like a rocky history over 2020 and 2021, because there was lots of questions about, are we going to shut this down? Like, the organizations that used to put it on, they were like, we have to go back home and make sure that, flagship is operating. And I remember recently I kind of wrote an article on that, where that decision was kind of taking place. And so our organization, we stepped in because we came out of Youth Bike Summit and knew how important it was to the community, and said that we, as a volunteer nonprofit organization, is going to take on this particular event. And so we started working with one of first partners, Community Bike Works in Pennsylvania, to start talking about what can Youth Bike Summit 2024 look like. And so that's kind of the most recent photos, and everything that you see is a rejuvenation of the Youth Bike Summit and the vision that we want to continue to see. And so now we're bringing it to Boston with some of our partners like Bikes Not Bombs, Pan Food and Fitness, and I'm sure many other partners will get involved. The mayor of the city is super supportive of bicycles, and so that's why we're super excited to not only bring it to Boston, but then start looking where else can we bring. So it's an exciting time.
It's really exciting. I applaud you for the work you've done. And so that is Boston, Massachusetts, May 30th through June 1st, 2025. An event not to miss, and the NBDA will be promoting that and encouraging people to see what's taking place at the Youth Bike Summit. And Josh, you're always looking for industry partners to support you as well. I mean, you mentioned Bikes Not Bombs, they're an MBDA member, but can brands get involved too? Like, do you need some support from the industry?
Yeah, we definitely need some support from the industry. I think it can look in a few different ways. From retailers themselves, those of them that have bike shops. I was probably going to touch on this a little bit later. But I think that getting involved locally is actually very important. Ultimately, it's what information does your community have, and what locations can they get that particular information, and what will keep your communities inspired about the products that you're selling, whether it's gloves, hats, helmets, bikes, and stuff like that. So retailers we've seen in the past, for example, sponsor out a youth group to come to the Youth Bike Summit. Not only is that very effective, but those young people come back to your community more informed than they were before, and also more motivated. There's lots of initiatives that have came out of the Youth Bike Summit in the past. We've had mobile bike shops start. In the past, we've had all girl bike club start. In the past, we've had also, talk about National Youth Bike Council start. There's so many, the variety is amazing, and the authenticity of what comes back home is also very unique to the Youth Bike Summit. I haven't seen other events that really capture the energy and the essence of what the Youth Bike Summit has to offer in the way that it does it. It's about, having workshop opportunities, having opportunities for young people to ride bicycles together, and then also meet each other and staff members as well. So retailers at the local level should definitely consider sponsoring their local youth group, and not only for things like the Youth Bike Summit, but continuously staying involved with them. If there's not one around, please reach out to us. We can definitely connect you with young people in groups that are very interested in attending the Youth Bike Summit or being involved in your bike shop. They're some of your biggest advocates. For brands, there's a plethora that brands can really do. I cannot overstate how much a giveaway is important at a Youth Bike Summit, or how much promoting the next biggest thing is to a younger audience can make an impact on, the feedback of your product, but also at the same time, the quality of your brand being present at events like the Youth Bike Summit. A lot of these young people are very inspired. They have bicycles at home. They look at their bicycles. Some of them are really, in touch with the brand. They really love the particular brand. And so imagine what kind of impact these brands could have by being present at the Youth Bike Summit and saying, like, hey, we're showing up, we're here, we're supporting, and we're also meeting you where you're at, and letting you know that we appreciate that you're riding our bikes and that you love what you do.
I love that. And I love the reminder to retailers that how important it is to connect with your community, to get involved with youth. I mean, we've seen retailers do it with NICA. Now they can also work with your organization. There's Project Bike Tech. There's Outride. It's so good to see so many organizations focused just on getting retailers and the industry more aligned with youth cycling. I know that you're a member of organizations like the League of American Bicyclists, or not a member, but that you collaborate, let's say, Youth Bike America, Bikes Not Bombs, we already talked about them. Are you looking to form more collaborations with other nonprofits? And do you envision more summits or more events in the future?
So the big question that came up after 2024 was, can we have the Youth Bike Summit multiple times a year?
Yeah, right?
Um, that's a big question for us. I think it's something we want to explore, especially as some folks kind of when they travel, they might just want to stay in their region. And we took a little bit of inspiration from CABDA as they kind of just do their CABDA show in one region at a time. I'm not sure what that would look like. We're not sure how it'll be, but collaborating with other nonprofits is going to stay at the top of what we do because, like you mentioned, NICA, Outride, Project Bike Tech, all these organizations are doing something really great in different ways that attract young people to get involved, usually in a very clear way. And we want to find ways to collaborate with them. So, for example, like Project Bike Tech, it was a no-brainer that we're inviting Project Bike Tech to the 2025 Youth Bike Summit because they're looking for additional locations to expand, but at the same time, those locations they could potentially expand or partners that they could work with already come to Youth Bike Summit. We already have lots of nonprofits that come, lots of earn a bike programs, sometimes city officials, sometimes college locations are showing up there. So it's a great place for networking and getting involved, or I guess even from an NVDA perspective, inspiring different nonprofits to get involved with potentially adding retail components to their, aside from just having youth bike programs.
Yeah. And how are kids finding, like, how are youth finding you? Are you just asking your affiliates to promote what you're doing? I mean, we've been trying to promote here, I mean, even this podcast now, but how do we get more youth to find your resources?
We believe it's really going to be so we're very pro out of school programs. In school programs are very good as well. And so there has to be like a great combination of both. Out of school programs, you get like a really interesting diversity of young people. And so that's why a lot of the groups that we work with are nonprofits because normally they operate outside of the school. They have a little bit more flexibility, sometimes for traveling or whatever it might be. Partnering with other folks like Outride is always nice. League of American Bicyclists as well, like through their college, friendly college bike program as well. That's how we do a lot of our promotion. In the past, we also used to have council members doing some promotion as well, depending on where they were, working with like their local bicycle coalition, for example, stuff like that.
I mean, I think you're doing a wonderful job. A question that just came to mind off of this, thinking about youth cycling, what might be a barrier to youth getting on bikes? Is it actually having a bike? Do you think it's safe places to ride? Just in your conversations with youth, is there any barrier to cycling that comes up more often?
So one interesting barrier that we experience quite a bit is um, time, but also it could be also money. So for example, if the council members or if these youth groups that were, getting to come to the Youth Bike Summit, if they had the funds to either like pay some of their council members in any form or fashion, do a little stipend, something like that, especially because it's out of a school opportunity. So some of them are, goes towards like credit, some of them don't. Um, Location to ride is also very important. Other young people to ride with is also a really big one. Like the question is like, how many other young people do they know that they can ride with? You kind of see like big groups of young people kind of riding together in their different styles. It's very inspirational. It's very community oriented. How do they know about other young people? That's another barrier. And here's another one that kind of gets overlooked: a place to gather.
Oh,
And I sometimes I've kind of a love-hate relationship with this one because sometimes I look at retail locations as like, I think a retail location would be a really nice place to gather. So if retail stores have the space, saying like their location can be a location where young people can be, or even just communities can gather, I think that's always a plus. I know some retailers are kind of like in like a box, but I will be honest, I remember there was a bike shop that I used to go to quite a lot that was right across the street from another bike shop that I also used to go to. And one day they kind of just decided that young people can't hang out there no more. So like the attention that that location got, from like a young perspective decreased a whole lot. I think they are doing well now, but it's not as hype as it used to be. It's not as interesting. It doesn't really give no spark to, go and show up there. Because the people that things that you want to do, and it's not a home to anything or anyone or anybody. It's now just another bike shop.
Yeah, and I'm thinking, as retailers, we host group rides for adults. Maybe we host some rides for the Strider age kids or young kids, Um, but for youth, and I think of youth as like, I don't know, maybe 9 to 16, 17, somewhere in there, or maybe 11 to 7. Like we don't actually, outside of NICA, there's not a lot of opportunity where it's a youth ride, like where kids can just get together and do a group ride. So I think there is a big opportunity here. So if retailers had questions, like is the National Youth Bike Council a place that they could call and say, listen, I'm thinking about doing this. I'm thinking about making a safe place. I'm thinking about making a work stand just for youth to come in and have tools and maybe get a little knowledge if they want. Can you give me some tips? Does the council do things like that?
Absolutely. Yes, we do. And they can contact us. And I kind of want to pedal backwards there for a second
I
because you
got
said something
excited.
else that was interesting. Yeah, you said something else that was interesting. Youth. So the National Youth Bike Council defines youth as 13 to 24. Of course, under 13 is also youth. We take 13 to 24 historically because the Youth Bike Summit had did it that way. And so we just, inherited that as well. The Our focus age is 13 to 24. So as you kind of hear me talking about, oh, young people gather, things of that nature, 13, they kind of have enough autonomy, at the most part to kind of do what they want to do, especially if they have a bicycle. And if they're urban, they can, get around. Outside of NICA, there's still many, many, many groups. You have like the BMX, you have the Willy groups, you have the single speed. All of these groups do exist. And why not open your doors for them?
Right.
Why not? They're there. They're in a lot of urban areas, and you can also inspire additional groups to also start by opening up your doors for rides to start at your location or to have a location if you have the space. Only if you have the space, of course. To use your location as a location to convene, even if it's not a ride, which is very important as well. Because some people come to ride all the time. Some people come to just hang out and be with others. These third spaces kind of are limited. So, of course, by acting as a third space as well, you're really being different from a lot of other locations. If, of course, if your retail location isn't a place that can allocate for a third space, it is, I can understand if it's kind of hard, but I did want to, define youth real quick.
Yeah, no, thank you, because I was struggling to define it too. I was like, what is a youth? So I knew it was older than a young kid, so I like that, 13 to 24. And there's great opportunity there because I have a 17-year-old daughter. Not all kids are taught how to ride bikes. I don't think it's like it used to be that everyone learned to lose the training wheels when they were younger. There's a whole group of kids who just bicycles don't come to them. But if they can find a safe place and maybe a friend is riding, there's an opportunity there. All right.
Are you looking to connect with the heart of the bicycle retail industry? Advertise here on the NBDA Bicycle Retail Radio podcast. Each episode brings together specialty retailers, vendors, advocates, and thought leaders for honest discussions on the latest industry issues. With thought-provoking content that features relatable, real-world tips for success, you can reach your target audience where they listen, learn, and grow. Visit nbda.com to get started today.
All right, Josh, if I gave you the keys to a bike store tomorrow, and you could do anything to set that bike store up to be catering to youth, keep in mind, we have space restrictions in bike shops and whatnot, but what would you do? What would you encourage? If you were a retailer yourself, what do you think would really resonate?
Honestly, I guess I have to preach it a little more. First of all, I would definitely, of course, aside from normal services, and the different products that we could potentially offer, that would be more catered to young people. For younger people and younger audiences, hopefully have like products that are on the cheaper side, so nothing that's like over $40, like a section specifically dedicated to things under $40 that would help get them involved or be involved in any form of way, other from like stickers to other handheld items or other items related to bicycling, whatever it is, like customizables, wearables, stuff like that. Create a location for young people to gather So maybe like just a few couches, whatever it might be, but some maybe couches and a monitor or something like that. Something that isn't only specific for young people, but it gives like this sense of like community. You can hang out here, you can be here even if you're not shopping, type of vibe. Um, and then make sure that one staff member that is there has some time dedicated to attending to those of them that are just coming in to show up, just to show up. So it wouldn't be their main thing, but like they would make sure that they're present, or checking in or whatever it might be. This kind of isolates the idea that like if you're in here, you're only in here just for shopping. That you can also be here for other reasons. And then this also gives you the opportunity to build a relationship with different customers and tell them to invite others to come, to then also invite them to try different things or be a part of different activities or initiatives that you have. Tell them about other things that exist. Maybe even have one of those boards as well, where communities can come in and post something on the board. And if someone's sitting in this chilling area, they see that opportunity and they can be involved. As much opportunity for people to like gather, collaborate in your space, even though you're primarily selling like bicycles or
Yeah.
whatever it might be.
Yeah, I think it's important. Like we are the hub of the community, right? So how are we, let's say we created this space, how are we reaching youth to let them know this space exists? Is it the social medias? Is it through like Boys and Girls Club? Like say I own a store, but I haven't historically done anything to reach out to youth. Maybe just on my own social channels, start promoting it.
Yeah, there's if it's social channels, there's so many creative ways I could think of off the top of my head of ways to get young people to show up. But I would kind of recommend on the ground type of work. So honestly, like if I'm a bike shop, I definitely want to make a profit at the end of the day. I'd be partnering with my local bicycle coalition, and asking them to do career days for me.
Mm.
When was the last time a young person saw a bicycle shop at a career day? Is
Mhm.
this a potential option that they want? Things like that. Other opportunities could be like mobile bike shops at different events, things like that. Bringing your opportunities, your space to someone else. But I can only imagine, like, for example, like a career day, I can only imagine who you would inspire or who you would get intrigued or interested if you were at a career day saying, like, this is what I do. I work on bikes for a profession. This is what it looks like. And, if you want to turn the axle, go ahead and turn it. If you want to take the sticker, take it. It really is like a work of art, and it does take some dedication to get like that particular audience, depending on like which school you'd potentially be going to a career day for. But like even if you don't have the time, your local bicycle coalition might, another group that's around might as well, representing your shop, your organization. Those partnerships are very important.
All right, this is gonna sound a little bit weird, but how does the bike retailer like look cool or appeal to the youth? Is it having those SE bikes or like, you know what I'm saying? Like sometimes the youth might think like this is an old bike shop and it's not that cool. Is it technology? Like I heard you mention there was a screen in the sitting area. So is
Mhm.
it like just I don't know, it's kind of a weird question, but you know what I'm
I,
saying?
I get where you're coming from. I don't know if there's one thing that would make it look cool. It does help if you remember how I talked about that staff person? It does help if that staff person that's kind of checking in with the community is cool in some form or way, like they do BMX, they look cool or whatever. Like that's one way. I could also imagine, aesthetics. I like you said, like, do we need to have like tech or whatever? That's kind of out there. Additionally, sometimes the bike shop doesn't need to look cool, but the young people that they attract should
Mm,
look cool because they're an influence on who else gets involved. Like that's the route that I would go, probably that last one, if I wasn't trying to like break the bank on aesthetics or didn't have the staff person. But like if you believe it or not, young people already think bikes are cool enough. So if you're in your space and if you attract the right young folks at the right time, I don't think it would be too hard to make it look cool through peer-to-peer influence. And that's again one of the reasons why we're so big about youth leadership, is because there's no better way to get a great message across than having young people work together. You can see this is what landed me here. So
that's what I was just about to say. Maybe instead of the retailer trying to figure it out, they invite the youth in their community to form, create what the bike shop is going to do. And so they ask the youth to gather in this area and then say, hey, we want to create some youth programs. Do you guys want to be our steering committee or something, right? Would that sounds like it might kind of be cool, right?
It might be actually, and I think I'm kind of looking out for those retailers that might not have like the heavy lift. If it's
Yeah.
too much of a heavy lift, I totally get it. Maybe just let it authentically grow, and you have to just give it that time. Authenticity and some attention is kind of like a plant. But if they have the time, then I think adding some form of like component where like on a specific dedicated schedule, you're specifically catering to those particular young people, and they will definitely show up as like word gets out, or as you work with the right folks to tell them about this opportunity. No one's going to turn down like a great opportunity to get involved with a bicycle, especially if they're close.
Yeah. Josh, I didn't even ask you, how long have you been with the council?
I've been in with the council since its inception. Definitely started. I was one of the first members that had helped start it. I think it was like four of us. And for some clarity too, I actually used to be on another youth council at my local bike shop. But then when we decided to create like this big one, I transitioned out of that one and into this one. It wasn't like official or anything, it was just casual. But yeah, since I saw the idea back in 2016 all the way up to now, when we're now a full 501c3, going from starting at the Youth Bike Summit to now running the Youth Bike Summit and looking to have a better future for it. Yeah, like we've done so many different things. Actually, maybe an inspirational story for the retailers. We actually did work with some retailers, so it'll definitely be my opportunity to shout out one retailer that kind of comes to mind that really helped us. We did this project called Spring Back on Bikes, which is on our website in 2021, where the idea was going from 2020 into 2021. We wanted to do two things. One, we actually went around to different cities, the ones that we were available in. We actually thanked bike shops. I think we were giving them like donuts, and then we also gave them like some National Youth Bike Council stickers or something because everyone was getting slammed. And then a separate one was we did the Spring Back on Bikes, where we knew young people were not going to be able to get back on their bikes so easily because everyone was buying the bike. Like they were not there. So what we thought of was, why not just get a bike that you have maybe in your garage, in your basement, on the side of your house, and get that tuned up. So that's why we called it Spring Back on Your Bike, going in the winter, from the winter of 2020 into the summer of 2021. And we partnered with some bike shops in Philadelphia and Atlanta to do that. When we went to their shops, we asked them for some tune-up tickets. They thought we were crazy because they don't have any time for anything else. Really, it was tough. But yeah, there was one bike shop that actually ended up giving us 100 tune-up tickets somewhere in Atlanta. I think it was like Atlanta Pro Bike. But it was actually, we actually didn't do the direct ask. We were working with a youth group called Atlanta Students Advocating for Pedestrians, and they went and did the ask. And they got 100 tune-up tickets that they could then give out to some young people that needed it. It was amazing. It was great, and that was a way that a retailer was directly engaging with a youth group in their city. And now that connection is kind of, forever made. We still see them working together. We still see them working, at their school and stuff like that. Some of the students that were at, ASAP are not there no more. But the group continues on. I think that is a really great example of how retailers made a difference at a time of crisis.
Yeah. Oh my God, I love that story. Give me goosebumps. Yeah, time of crisis. And it was a time of crisis, and we all had to pull together. Thank you for sharing that story. So Josh, you're in Texas, right? So the council members are all spread out, like Georgia,
Yeah.
Washington, Texas. That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
And
actually, we're looking to start expanding just beyond individuals. This is actually something the council is currently talking over. We want to start accepting groups to be able to have representatives in the council. And this would then enable us to expand to different locations, taking on a new form of meeting. This is kind of us throwing on our like birthday hat and being like, hey, let's, growing up a little bit, taking a new approach to just having, individuals. But we kind of love the individual model as well. So we don't want to, leave it. But we noticed that like, as we have the Youth Bike Summit, it's really groups of people that come. Usually it's a group of people. So it's nice to have the variety just a little bit. I know you mentioned Youth Bike America too. I think they recently changed their name to We Get Together or something like that, or Get There Together, which is nice because again, we've been working with them. They come to the Youth Bike Summit, and yeah, like we're all starting to say like, all right, this is really what we want to do. This is how we're going to do it, and start thinking of different ways to get it done.
I love it. I love it. So listen, listener, if you have to head over nybcouncil.com, if you do a /join-us, there's ways to get involved. You can sign up for their newsletter. It's really easy. They're also, an official 501c3, so they run on donations. There's a donate tab. I highly encourage you to think about supporting the mission. Josh, those are my words, though. I want to pop it over to you, like a call out to the industry, how we can support your efforts. I know we talked about the bike summit. Let us know what you need.
Yeah, a few things. Definitely not going to be shellfish in this first ask and say, if you're not supporting a youth group, please support them. Because ultimately, like, the young people that get involved with us are supported at some form or way at the local level. Second, follow us on social media. I know we said www.nybcouncil.com, but also check out www.youthbikesummit.org. We just recently updated the website, so we're super excited about that. And then third, maybe consider some form of targeting or working directly with the youth audience, maybe through us. So for example, if you're looking to sponsor a youth group out that you want from your town, email us, talk to us. If you want to be a part of the Youth Bike Summit or want to know if the Youth Bike Summit is coming to your city, and if it does, and you want to be involved when it does, please email us. Send us thoughts, send us questions. We definitely appreciate it.
Yeah, we need more people to engage, right? The more great minds we have, the more opportunities kind of come about and we start thinking about things. Josh, I can't thank you enough for the work you're doing. You're impacting lives, you're changing lives. Like, that's a huge thing that shouldn't go not mentioned.
I have to give a lot of credit to, a lot of the people that have been working with us. There's so many advisors we've had, so many, like, our board members are amazing, so many great partners. I didn't get a chance to name like half the people, but definitely more than just myself in making a lot of this happen. And special shout out to the Youth Bike Summit Steering Committee as well.
Yeah, you're a really generous human, and I appreciate that the National Bicycle Dealers Association gets to work with you and your team. We'll definitely be promoting the summit. I hope this podcast does land on the right ears. If someone has questions, they want to get in contact with you. There's the website, but is there a contact you would share?
I would definitely say our email is the best way to get to us. info@nybcouncil.com. Try to keep it simple there. So
super simple. Josh, thank you for coming on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for tuning into Bicycle Retail Radio, presented by the National Bicycle Dealers Association. We hope you enjoyed today's episode, and if you did, please like, subscribe, or leave us a review. Sharing this podcast with your friends helps us reach more listeners and continue to bring you the best content. Remember, we host 2 shows per week with ever-changing guests and fresh content to keep you both informed and inspired. The National Bicycle Dealer Association is committed to providing valuable events, webinars, and opportunities for industry education and connection. Stay up to date by visiting nbda.com to see our event calendar. Special thanks to Francis Abbott for the promotional graphics for today's episode. If you're interested in advertising on Bicycle Retail Radio or have a guest suggestion, visit nbda.com to learn more. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time on Bicycle Retail Radio.